Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm thrilled to be here once again with Michelle Chalfant.
I just have to tell you, every time you say hello, I get a big smile on my face.
What? Really?
Because you're always, so bright and cheery.
That's so nice of you to say.
I do. I'm serious. I have a huge smile.
Oh, that's so nice.
So sweet.
I try so hard to be bright and cheery.
Well, I think it's just who you are. It's lovely. I love it.
I'm going to have to ask my kids that. We're going to be talking about forgiveness today, which is, we've talked about it before, I think, and I know you've done some writing about it, but I think this is the first time we've done a whole episode on forgiveness. So I'm very excited to see what you have to share today. Before we dive into that, please head over to theadultchair.com, learn more about this show, subscribe for free, sign up for the mailing list. It really is the easiest way. If you're not technically inclined to download a podcast app or to figure out how to subscribe in iTunes or some other app, just add your name to the email list and you'll get an email when new episodes are released. That would be great. You can also join the conversation on Facebook or Twitter and call us. You can leave us a message with your thoughts or questions at 931-463-3813. We would love to hear from you. Okay, forgiveness. How does this? How does this tie into what we've been talking about? We've talked about returning to your seat of power, kind of finding yourself. We spent all of February talking about relationships, and now it feels like jumping into forgiveness is it may be. I don't know. Do you have any subversive tie-in to relationships where forgiveness is something we need to be thinking about? Should I be forgiving somebody? Or be asking for forgiveness?
Maybe. I don't know.
Am I in trouble? That's
Maybe.
Really the bottom line. Am I in trouble?
I'm really mad at you. It's interesting you say that about after we did the seat of power last week. And forgiveness, in my opinion, has it's about claiming our power back. So it is a great segue, from last week into this week. I think that also forgiveness, which I know we've talked about boundaries in the past on the podcast, is also, it kind of links with boundaries. It's all together in the adult chair. So what I want to talk about is how most people deal with forgiveness, or how do they forgive? And I think that oftentimes it just falls right in the adolescent chair. Mm-hmm. Or as I'm calling it now, the adolescent hotel, because it's like...
You're definitely not just sitting there. You're living there.
It's not just like one seat. And I really want to get clear on it, help people to get clear on it. The adolescent chair is a chair that represents multiple personas. So again, it could be when I'm in my victim, I'm in the adolescent chair. When I'm in my codependent persona, I'm in the adolescent chair. When I'm in my addiction, I'm in my adolescent chair. So there are many different parts of us that actually sit in that adolescent chair. Okay. So it's more like a big house or a hotel. Anyway, so when somebody hurts us or offends us, we typically do get thrown into that adolescent chair. And there are some things that could happen as far as forgiveness goes. Number one, sometimes we just stay angry or stuck. We just stay really mad at that person and we don't move. Nothing happens because we're stuck in the adolescent chair in anger.
Right, because the adolescent chair gives us, I think, fuel to be sort of subversively satisfied.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens is, remember in the adolescent chair, we use anger oftentimes not as a true emotion, because if it's a true emotion, it's coming from our child. Our child has the true feelings and true needs, remember. But oftentimes when people get so angry, it's a defense, so they don't feel the true emotions that are underneath.
Okay.
So when people say, I'm just stuck and I can't move, oftentimes I'm like, they're using that anger as a defense instead of authentic anger. The other thing is, again, like I was saying, people get stuck in the victim seat or that poor me. And then they're waiting for the other person to apologize. Or if it was an event that might have caused someone to be thrown into the seat of the victim, like a car accident where somebody might claim another person that they love.
Right.
If then no one can really apologize, that maybe someone might then get stuck and blame God, or just, again, sitting in that seat of anger and they can't move. They don't move out of it. Oftentimes also, again, from the adolescent chair, people will forgive too soon. And then they don't have to quote unquote deal with it, because they don't know how to set a boundary, and they don't want to get involved in conflict. So if somebody has offended them or done something that was hurtful to them, instead of even going through the stages of, being upset and then having to forgive them, they just they will brush it off or blow it off. So they'll just say, oh, it's okay. They didn't really mean to, or they were really drunk, or they were really tired. So I'm not even going to think twice about it.
Okay. So that's a really good point. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that, because I think so many, where does it come from when you reach this place when you feel like, okay, I'm just gonna write this off, or say, oh, as you say, they were drunk, or they were mad, or they were low blood sugar, whatever it was that caused them to lash out. I'm gonna forgive them. I also get self-satisfied by being a forgiving person in that context. But what I hear you saying is that's not really authentic, or there's something more there to actually lead to a deeper sense of forgiveness. Is that what I'm reading into this?
Well, there could be. It could be that, well, they had low blood sugar, like you said, and
I love that one.
I know
all of my most sensitive friends have low blood sugar
I
issues.
do too, actually. But yeah, so, I know they didn't mean it, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. We can forgive someone from the adolescent chair, and we can do it also from the adult chair. When we do it from the adolescent chair, it's more of like blowing it off and not really wanting to deal with it. Okay. And I'm going to explain to you how we do it from the adult chair.
Okay.
So it's really a personal feeling. And we will know, am I doing it from a place of I don't really want to deal with it, or I'm a forgiving person? That could be a label, and we're putting ourselves back in the adolescent chair. I want to be identified as a forgiving person.
Right. But that's not necessarily authentic.
That's not an identity. Remember? Right. But some people say, oh yeah, I just love to forgive. It's okay.
That's an addiction.
It is. Well, it's like what they could be saying, I don't know, but I don't like to deal with conflict.
Sure.
I don't know how to deal with
hide
conflict.
That in this guise of being a forgiving person.
No big deal, or and they'll make up excuses for the other people in stories like, well, they didn't really know what they were doing, so I'm just going to let it go. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How did that make you feel? And then if they don't want to go there, then we know that it's something that they're doing from the adolescent chair.
Okay.
In other words, there is a process that we go through when we go into forgiveness. And it could be very quick, or it could take a little longer. Then we look at things like sexual abuse, or even emotional or verbal abuse. The same kind of thing can happen, with the addition, though, of now we have shame and self-blame and self-judgment. And we'll say, oh, that was my fault. I deserved it. So we beat up on ourselves. And then again, we get stuck in that adolescent chair. And then oftentimes from there, we're then going to act out, and we're waiting for the other person to tell us it wasn't our fault. It's this big circle, this cycle that goes through, and then it happens all in the adolescent chair. And the key here is that we're looking for the answers outside of ourselves. We want someone outside of us to tell us it wasn't our fault, even though I got abused.
Sure.
That's a hard one.
Right.
So those are just a few ways that we do forgiveness from that adolescent chair. But how do we do it then from the adult chair? So from the adult chair, the first step is we have to feel our feelings. I think I say this on every podcast.
Feel the feels.
Feel the feelings. Yeah, around what happened. So, gosh, I feel really sad that she spoke to me like that, or I have grief now that he's gone, or I'm afraid to be alone, whatever that feeling is, but we go to the feeling and feel it, allow it to come through our whole body. Okay. Mm-hmm. Again, going back to that stuck place. It could be that we're not feeling our anger. When people just say, I'm just stuck. I can't move forward. I don't know why. I can't forgive. And I don't know. I'm just stuck. Again, are you even feeling your feelings, or is there anger? I find so many of us are afraid to feel our anger, but what's really cool is anger is, I had a teacher once say this to me, and I couldn't agree more when she said, anger is like our rocket fuel, and it fuels us. It fuels our power. So when we're really stuck and we step into our anger, it pushes us forward. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying rage. I'm saying anger. You can, when you're really mad, that energy comes right up through our whole body. Right?
Yeah. You can feel it.
It gets us unstuck.
Right.
It gets us moving. So the first step is, again, feel our feelings. This is the adult chair now. When we're in the adult chair, this is what we do. Then we got to find out what's true. So we have to drop the stories and assumptions, because we typically do that right away. When we say, he was drunk and he didn't really mean to, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's just find out what's true. Did the person that you think that hurt you, did they intentionally do it? Did they mean to? Are they that kind of person in general?
Well, that's kind of the question, right? You know how that, you say, what when you joke kind of at somebody else's expense, there's always, it's like, oh, I was just joking. I didn't really mean it. Well, there's always that sort of 10% that the reason that joke even came up is because it's embedded in their impression of you or something. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of what I'm feeling here, that a part of what you have to get to is this person, just because they were drunk, maybe lashing out. It's the fact that being drunk allowed them to lower a barrier to speak their truth to you in a way that is hurtful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And they're maybe not intending to be hurtful, but they are intending to express something to you, and they can't do it unless they've had 2 glasses or 10 glasses of wine.
Right. Which
and then the
goes
truth
back to
comes
why
out.
this is such an insidious kind of process.
Right. So you got to find out what's true. So for me, like I go to people when they are feeling, when I'm hurt, I'll go to people and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm not sure if it's true. And again, from the adult chair, we gather more information if we don't have it. We don't make up stories and assumptions.
Yes.
And we typically, as humans, will do the story and assumption thing. So instead, we have to drop all the stories, and just go, okay, I got to go ask them, why did you say that to me? What's going on here? I'd like to know what's happening with you, because that really hurt me. Mm-hmm. And again, if the offense was, we got to go to the sexual, mental, emotional abuse. This is a hard one. And people say to me, how can I ever, move forward from that? How can I forgive that person? When we can step into the shoes of the other person, we gain a new perspective. For example, I'm in fact right now working with some people that I don't know why this is happening, but in the last month or so, I think I might have mentioned this in the last podcast. I've just had the experience of my clients being either in relationship with or having a family member even that's been a psychopath. Now, not that they're killing people. That's not what a psychopath is. But people that are destructive in relationships, that might lash out, that don't make sense, that project their issues on us, that have unexplained rage, that you can't reason with, that also come across very nice and friendly. But they're narcissistic. But it's hard to see because they wear a very lovely mask on the outside, like they're great people. So anyway, so a few of my clients have said, I don't know, why would so-and-so have done that to me? And it's just, the red alert to me was, I think they're psychopaths. So I've said to them, why don't you go Google what a psychopath is and tell me if that resonates. And then they come back the following week. They're like, oh my God, you hit the nail on the head. And I'm like, so now how does it make you feel that they did that to you? And they're like, I kind of get it now because, they grew up with this abandoned feeling and blah, blah, blah. So it shifts. It shifts us from that place of blame and anger into this place of understanding. I remember working with a mother who had a borderline child, and the child was just acting out all the time. And again, their moods would swing, and she blamed her mother all the time. I said, I think she might be borderline. Why don't you look that up? Go and investigate that. And she came back and said, oh my God, you just changed my whole perception of my daughter. And she was like in her 40s. The daughter was in her 40s. So it helps us then to move into forgiveness if that's what we choose. Okay. People may not want it. They just might want to stay stuck. That's fine too. And in order to feel, this is the next one too, is in order to feel safe, which we kind of just talked about a little bit, and move forward and still have relationships with those people, sometimes we have to set boundaries for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So it's letting that person know, you really hurt me the way you spoke to my spouse or my partner. So we're not going to come for Christmas, but we'll still come for Easter, or we'll come for a visit in the summer, but we're never going to do Christmas with you. I'm just letting you know. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes we really want to be heard by that other person. But I'll say this, Not everyone can handle the truth. Not everybody can handle hearing our truth and what we want to say, because oftentimes it can trigger that other person. But if we feel like it's someone that we can openly talk to and be vulnerable with, I always advise go and set that boundary with that person. And that doesn't mean conflict. It means speaking up for how you want to be treated.
Yeah, and you're getting back to this sort of psychopathy. I mean, a part of the problem there is lack of a moral center, right? I mean,
right.
That's the problem. They don't feel trouble when they are hurting you, and that's part of the diagnosis of psychopathy or sociopathy. It's like that weak conscience. And so, of course, they're not going to be able to hear you because they don't care. But as you're saying, like there are people in your life who hurt you, and it's unintentional, or it's something that's just it would be useful to clear the air, and that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, oftentimes when I've spoken up for myself and I say it to somebody, that really hurt me when you said that to me, they're horrified. They're like, oh my God, like I had no idea. And I'm like, well, it did hurt me. And I know you said you were joking or you had that one glass of wine. And I'm just trying to get really clear. How do you feel?
Yeah.
Because I want to know. And the relationships that I have in my life are really important to me. And I want to keep them around. So, and I want my friends and family to do the same with me. If I've hurt someone, I want them to speak up. And I know I've lost friends because not everybody can do that.
Can you flip it for us a little bit? And I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but can you talk a little bit about how to approach it when you have hurt somebody, how to ask for forgiveness and how to be present in that process and not get triggered as we just mentioned? Like when you've been drinking too much or haven't eaten enough protein.
We have to own our stuff, own it. So own what you did, take full responsibility, and just apologize. Don't make excuses. Just apologize. I'm really sorry that I hurt you. Yeah. I was completely out of line. I was, I'd had 3 glasses of wine, and I find when I am most honest with people and I just tell them what's true for me, like, this is my truth and I just want to express it to you. And I'm sorry. What do you think most people say back? Like, oh, well, you did hurt me, but now I understand why. And I'm, and let's just hug and make up. I mean, we're not good at taking responsibility, owning our stuff, and speaking up about it. It's so scary when we do it from the adolescent chair.
Yeah.
It won't let us do it from there.
But when we do it from the adult, it's really surprising.
You know what? In the adult chair, we can be scared, but we do it anyway. Yeah. It's like there's still that energy that says, it's okay, and I own it. I own all my crap. It's like, This is my stuff. I am in no way perfect.
Right.
And when I make mistakes, and I certainly do, I'm going to own it and I'm going to apologize. If that relationship is important to me, I'm going to own it. Even if it's not, I still will, apologize, and then we can hopefully move on.
Yeah.
But I also say when people, I don't know if it's just a woman thing, because I work with mostly women. I do work with men as well, but I see so many women that are constantly apologizing for things that they shouldn't even be apologizing for. I'm like, why are you apologizing for that? Stop it. And that's, again, a defense. It's like, please do not be mad at me. We're so afraid of making someone else mad at us. It's like, but when we can speak from this adult chair to adult chair with people in our lives that are important to us, it's this vulnerability thing that happens. We can be open. It's a lot of what Brene Brown says. It's like being vulnerable and open and speaking up for how we feel is one of the most powerful things that we can do.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So the very last step is, then we get to choose. We get to choose. Well, I just want to say one last thing. When we're setting boundaries, it might be that person is just not a nice person. And that might mean, you know what? I know they were, and maybe we don't know what their childhood was. Maybe they were abused, and maybe their father was an alcoholic. Who knows? But sometimes we just say, you know what? As far as a boundary goes, I'm just not going to choose to see them anymore because I get hurt all the time when I'm with them. So I'm just going to be done. Why put ourselves in a relationship that's one-sided and it's so hurtful by that other person? So in that case, I just walk away. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the fourth step would be we decide or we choose that we would like to forgive the offender. This is the last step. When people jump right in and go, I'm just going to forgive. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Did you feel your feelings? Did you find out what's true? Did you set a boundary if you need to? Mm-hmm. And again, it doesn't take an hour to do this or even a week. It's like, it can be very quick, but let's make sure we're hitting all these steps. And then we choose. And some people are easier to forgive than others. But in my opinion, in my experience, is that I'm going to choose to forgive you. And then it's like a process where I wait and I have compassion for you and I have a deeper understanding of why you did or said what you did. And then forgiveness happens to me. I may choose it, but it's this feeling that comes over me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Like, we can't force it if we're not ready.
Yeah,
a lot of people go, I need to forgive so I can move on. Well, in order to move on, feel your feelings and find truth and then set boundaries. And then that's the last step. And forgiveness is for me. It's not for the other person. It's for us.
Yeah.
That sets us free so we can move on. We don't want to stay stuck in the past. And when we're stuck blaming that other person or the event that happened that might have taken a loved one from us, when we stay focused in on the past, we're stuck there and we can't move on. We're certainly not in the adult chair. We want to be in the moment. And that's the only way we can do that is to sit in the adult. And that's when forgiveness happens to and for us relating to that other person.
Right, right. Well, and it allows us to be authentic in our offering of forgiveness, particularly if people know that if we're going through this process to be forgiving, it is just as powerful as going through the process to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember hearing years ago on Oprah, I think it was Michael Beckwith or somebody like that said, they used the term when they were speaking of this whole concept, and they said, thank you, instead of for giving me the opportunity to ... like fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. So it might be, thank you for giving me the opportunity, to know myself better, to see my own shame, to see my anger, to see my own lack of compassion. You know, when an event happens outside of us, any sort of event, or anyone says anything, or any car accident, or anything like that, it teaches us something about ourselves. And again, we can't see that unless we're in that adult chair. It's not making it all about me in a negative way. It's like, I want to learn, how can I participate in my life in this way and be really present with everything that's happening in my life? And if this end result is forgiveness, great. And that's what will then bring us peace. But we got to go through these steps and realize, where am I coming from? Am I coming from that adolescent chair and forgiving from that place just to get it over with and move on because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings? Or am I doing it from this real centered place where I'm truly shifting energy within my body and truly letting it go and forgiving that other person? Mm-hmm. That's an experience. That's not something we do in the mind. In the adolescent chair, when we're there, we do everything from the mind. This adult, yes, the mind is involved, but it's a full body experience. And you will feel the release and that shift when we forgive someone from that chair. It's a very different experience.
That is lovely.
Yes. I will say yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
take it. I'll take whatever I can get, really.
So there you go.
That is a great perspective, Michelle. Thank you, as always, for sharing. And I hope others have gotten something out of this, because I think, boy, it feels like really, something I deal with every other day. I think that's all we have this week.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
I like people to actually comment on Facebook, because I love to exchange comments on Facebook. That's really fun.
There you go.
I like that.
Facebook.
Facebook, everybody.
Facebook.
Comment.
Go to Facebook.
Comment.
Go to Twitter. Call us. We'd love to hear from you. Any way you can get a hold of us and share your thoughts. And on behalf of Michelle Chalfant, I'm Pete Wright. And we'll catch you next time right here in the Adult Chair.